Hello everybody, welcome to the Patriot Show. I'm Anthony Stephen Malone. I am your host. Today I am joined by a very special guest over in the United States, Craig Summers, 23-year Commando veteran and former head of security worldwide for the BBC and Sky News, now the CEO of CSS Security and Logistics in the United States. Hello Craig, welcome to the show.
Hi Stephen, how are you?
I am good, mate. I am good. So you've had a hell of a career, and you've done an awful lot, mate. Take us back to the beginning. Can you tell my viewers a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, yeah, it all started probably 1977. I decided that I wasn't going to be a brain surgeon. So the next best thing was to probably join the military, like a lot of kids of my age at that time. Excuse me. I then went down to the careers office, joined up. The only people that would take me at the time were the artillery or the parachute regiment. And I thought, well, let's try the artillery. Went in there and at the time passed out basic training and decided I could either go Commando, Para, or whatever. And I fancied going down the Commando route. Went off, did the Commando course, really enjoyed it, and then joined 29 Commando based in Plymouth. And I spent about 4 or 5 years there before I decided that I wanted to go and join 148 Commando based in Poole, working with the SBS and all the other guys. And I like the idea of parachuting out of planes, chasing boats, submarines, doing all the, sneaky beaky stuff. Went down there, and unfortunately, as soon as I arrived, I had my parachute wings. They said, "Oh, you've got to go and do P Company." And I was like, "Oh, damn," And I went down there, had great fun, met some great people, had some interesting times with them. Passed P Company, came back to Poole and had 7 or 8 great years in Poole. Really, really good times. Did some interesting jobs, went off and traveled the world, learnt a new skill, learnt new trades. And then as time progressed, I decided that I wanted to do something different. And I bumped into a Marine in the sergeant's mess, and we sat there chatting. I'd known him working in the bar, in the gym, sorry. And we got talking, and I said, "Where have you been?" And he said, "Oh, I've been away on a course." And I went, "Oh, what course have you been on?" And he told me this name, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." Then he told me all about the job, and I decided that maybe it's something I should apply for, which I did. And it was working undercover in Northern Ireland. And I went out to Northern Ireland eventually, and I spent 2 years out there. Thoroughly enjoyed the job. It was a great, great job. Brilliant people, good soldiering. And my time came to an end, and I was coming to the end of my career at the time, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was offered a post training the reserves up in London. And coming from London myself, I thought that this is the ideal opportunity to sort of transition into Civvy Street. Had great 2 or 3 years in London, got to meet loads and loads of people. And I was like, do I really want to leave? I had a meeting with an old colonel who I knew very well and said, "Look, stay in, we will get you promotion." But it was all desk job work, Stephen, and I just didn't want to be a desk person. And I think, it probably sounds as though I'm waffling on a little bit, but like yourself and other people, once you've done a lot of things, you just want to, I think you close that door and you hope another one opens that will give you somewhere to go. I said my goodbyes, I made some great contacts, and I left, and that was my military career over.
Okay, well, yeah, that was a very short intro. That covered an awful lot of time in the military. But you use your experience, you use your knowledge. As one door closes, one door opens up. How did you find your transition from being in the military with that world into civilian straight?
Well, what was really interesting was that I was still in the transition period. I got a phone call from Panorama, the BBC program, and I think they'd been talking to a friend of mine and said, we're looking for somebody who can blend in and work on this investigative program on football hooligans. And, I think this person said, well, I've got this guy, he's done this, he's done that. Why don't you meet him? So I went for a meeting down at the Panorama office in London, met the producers, and they explained exactly what they were looking for. 1, can you film undercover? 2, can you blend in? 3, what's your availability? And I still wasn't quite out of the military at the time. And I was like, yeah, I can do all of that, but I need to confirm that I'm allowed to do it. Yeah. So I called up the military and they said, yeah, you can do that. You're done, but we're waiting for your paperwork to come through. So moving forward, I then ended up working for Panorama in Holland and Belgium with the Euro 2000 football championships. And we made a program all about 2 or 3 characters who were very, very high profile in the football hooligan world. And we befriended them, filmed with them, went out drinking with them. As you well know, when you're working undercover, you just move in with them and you live their life. Yeah. So you're living a full lie, which I did for 3 weeks. And the Panorama show won a couple of awards. And I suppose that was my transition. It was really, really quick, because as soon as it was over and I came home, I was still buzzing. It was like, hey, that was brilliant. I could do this full time. And then the phone doesn't ring. It doesn't ring. Yeah, nothing happens. And then 6 or 7 weeks later, I get a phone call, and I'm a civilian now. Got to find somewhere to pay the bills. I sat down with my wife and I said, look, what do you want to do? Shall I just take whatever job? You got your pensions and you got all your other stuff. And she said, no, look, follow your dream. Do what you want to do. Let's hang on. You don't need to be stocking shelves in Sainsbury's or whatever you want to do, or standing security guards. Let's just see what happens. And then 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Hey, we're making a follow-up program in the UK. Would you be interested? Of course, yeah. And then halfway through that program, I get a phone call saying, would I be interested in a full-time job at the BBC? We're thinking about setting up this team. We're thinking about doing this, and predominantly working for news, but you will be allowed to do some current affairs, investigative journalism. And I was like, yes, without a shadow of a doubt, I was going to take that job.
Yeah. No, that was a perfect, from being in the military to transition into civilian straight, your skill set and your experience, you drew on everything you've learned in the military into civilian straight, and you fell into that, but it worked out well, because the tempo of what you were doing at that point with the BBC was very similar to the tempo of being undercover in Ireland. So you were a perfect fit for like that. How did that progress then within the BBC?
Well, I got into the BBC, and the job predominantly was health and safety advisor. And I did try to explain to them that, hey guys, look, my health and safety skill set is, common sense. Yeah. But at that time, we're talking 21 years ago now, 2000, health and safety was becoming a massive thing in all businesses, even within the military. As I was leaving, health and safety. And I'd done a health and safety manager's course while I was leaving. And I said, well, look, I'm happy for you to put me under the health and safety banner, but that's not my skill set. So I sat on the foreign desk. And if you've ever been on a foreign desk or you've never been on a foreign desk in a big news organization is like an ops room. It has planners, people who are watching what's happening in the world. They're thinking ahead. There's future plans, there's present day plans, there's logistics. It's a small ops room with all the logistical support around it. And my support at the time was to monitor what was going on in the world. If I saw any problems where our crews could get into trouble or didn't have the right equipment, that was my project. So I then started working closely with the head of foreign news, the head of the foreign desk, and just understanding how media works. And to be fair, having been that sort of person, and like most military people, you've always avoided the media, I was now with the media. And then my first big thing that came up was 9/11. And, you know, it was amazing. We hired a 747 to get crews with ITN out to New York, but we couldn't get to New York. We had to go to Canada. We had to hire everything, and it was a logistical nightmare. And then while that was going on, Macedonia happened. So I went out to Macedonia. I was involved in Macedonia was previous to 9/11. So Macedonia was going on. That was my big first conflict with the news. And then 9/11, and then Afghanistan happened. And I went out to Afghanistan straight after 9/11. And, you know, it was crazy. You know, we had crews all over the place. We were trying to organize communications, logistics, getting people in, security advisors. You know, we had teams going over the Panjshir Valley to get into Afghanistan with mules and, you know, camera equipment strapped on the back, you know, and the roads were full of snow. And so that's from the military to current affairs, undercover, to now working with the senior producers on the ground, making sure that all the crews have got everything, we're safe, dealing with fixers, paying money. It's a whole new world.
Yeah, it certainly is. Unless you've been on the inside of it, it's like absolute organized chaos, but with civilians thrown into the mix as well. So you've got camera teams. Some of them are ex-military, obviously. A lot of them are now, but a lot of them are not. They're civilians, and trying to look after. It's like having children, for want of a better word, I think. Just trying to make sure they're all safe to be able to do the job that they've got as well.
Well, that's an interesting take. You know, it's like herding children.
Yeah.
Or herding cattle.
Trying to be polite how I put that.
Yeah. But then you have the mix where you've got a lot of journalists who are very experienced, who have covered more conflict zones than you have. Yeah. And you know, and I had some great conversations with people like Jeremy Bowen, John Simpson, you know, who had been covering wars for years. Yeah. And, you know, so you come in and then you have to try and find that very fine line that you don't overstep by telling them what to do and what not to do. And I think I found that because my personality, I worked hard, I was interested in filming, I got it. I basically got it. And not everybody gets it. You know, we have a lot of security advisors who come and work within the media and they don't get it. They think it's just another job where you're protecting a client or, you know, whatever. They won't be part of the team. And there was times when we were living in huts in the middle of nowhere, no food, no water. And as the sort of person who's there to look after them, you feel it's your responsibility to then find all that. So I would go out with the local driver, we'd come back with food and water, and and it's all about working as a team. And that goes back to being in the military. Some people can do it and some people can't. And I think it takes a special type of person to be the media security advisor or the head of security for Sky or BBC. You've got to understand it. You can't have the military mindset of, oh, they're the media, they're a pain in the backside. They're not. They're there to do a job as you're there to do a job.
I actually found I learned so much from being around members of the media who had been in the Middle East and in war zones for a lot longer than us. I had the honor to work with, and I learned a lot from people like Marie Coven, fantastic lady, worked with her Syria, Lebanon, Iraq. That sort of ilk, they understand the people, the culture, and being from the military, sometimes we get very set in our ways, and you can't do that in civilian street. So I found that if I stripped everything back and I learned and I just watched, I was quiet, I just watched how they interacted with the people, the local people as well. It was an experience. It was a learning experience. But I think a lot of people with a military mindset think they can just be the same in the military, like with the teams from the press, the same with them as they are in the military, and they can't be. They've got to accommodate them, but it's a give and take. And you're absolutely right. You've got to try and find that little bit of common ground where you're not telling them what to do, but you're enabling them to do their job.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that comes with spending time with them on the ground.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think for me, the Macedonia was a learning curve. The Afghanistan was a learning curve. And, you pick up things that you need to learn on the way. You especially if you work with the same teams over and over again, you tend to, it's like everything, in the military, you're friends and you're stuck in a trench somewhere, or you're stuck in an OP somewhere. You know what they like, you know what they can do and what they can't do, and what, basically makes them happy. So it's the same with the media. And I got on very, very well with a lot of the people, and I enjoyed my time in the BBC. I did a lot of very different trips, and I met some fantastic people all around the world. I even wrote a book on my life with the BBC, and it was interesting. It was challenging. And I think after 10 years at the BBC, and I could reel off all the conflicts and disasters that I've been to, but, I don't want to do that. But I think I'd reached a peak where after 10 years at the BBC, I needed another challenge, if that makes sense.
You've been there, done it, and it become very, you'd done everything there, for want of a better word. I think you needed to open another door to see.
Correct. Similar to the military, that door had closed after 23 years. The 10 years with the BBC had closed, and I felt that, and I'll be brutally honest, the money was a little bit a part of it, because there was no way that I was going to get paid any more money. The only way I could earn more money was if I left and became a freelance advisor. And I didn't want to do that. I maybe it's the comfort of working for a big corporation, or like working within the military, having the support behind you. And, I was talking to people who were going off as freelancers, earning huge amounts of money. And I wasn't earning that. And I wasn't really money orientated until I got to the end of that 10 years at the BBC. And I felt I want a bit more money. I don't want a huge amount of money, but I want a bit more. And as I was sort of considering taking redundancy, because at the time the BBC were offering redundancy, and I didn't think I'd ever get that because of the position. But strangely enough, our team had 1.5 people to lose. How you lose half a person, I don't know. But so myself and another person who worked there wanted to emigrate to Australia. So she put in and got it. And I thought, well, I'm going to try it. And I put in and got it and left. But as I was leaving, I get a phone call from Sky. And they said, hey, we're looking at forming a high-risk team, but we don't want a team similar to what you guys had at the BBC of 4 or 5 guys. We want maybe 1 or 2. Would you be interested?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, why not? So I went for an interview, threw my cards in, and fortunately got the job. And it was just me to start with. And I had a blank sheet of paper where I could basically write what I needed to write and ask what I wanted to ask. So I sat back using my experience from the BBC and the military and worked out what we needed to do. And I wasn't deploying at the time. We were using external security advisors. And that allowed me to put some operating procedures together, some policies, and just look at what Sky was doing. Online risk assessments, for example. Everywhere else I'd been had been sort of written, but Sky had this high risk policy online. They also had the risk assessment linked to it online, which I liked. And I thought, you know, we're moving forward. Technology's taking over. We've got to ride with it. We're not dinosaurs. And I did it, and I got involved, and we improved it. And then I started to deploy, partly because I was getting cold feet, sat at home, you know, and watching what was going on around the world. So I started deploying with people like Alex Crawford, Stuart Ramsey, Alex Rossi, you know, the big hitters from Sky. And before you know it, you're back in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Africa, you know, Zimbabwe, you know, wherever. I did a lot of stuff in Mexico around the drugs. I had great contacts in Mexico, and I took Stuart Ramsey out there to do drug wars, and we did 3 or 4 really good trips out there, and messed around with some bad people, and very lucky. But I put all that down to our fixers, who were very good, and, you know, our skill set. And we got some great programs out of that.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to be able to be connected into Sky, which is where I think we first met a long time ago. Brilliant setup, people there, awesome. Yeah, so but obviously every organisation goes through a couple of changes. Out of all the places, this is a difficult question. Out of all the places you've been and you've operated, which was the one you always remember?
That's a tough question. I suppose there's a couple, if I can say a couple. Obviously, 2003, the Iraq War with John Simpson, the friendly fire where the Americans dropped the bomb on us. That was quite harrowing. And then a close second would be Mosul. You know, we spent a lot of time in Mosul. I think from October 16 to, you know, November 17, however long it took to take East and West Mosul, we were in there all the time. And that was pretty harrowing. You know, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's, yeah. I know the incident with the friendly fire incident. That was the one in Kurdistan.
Correct.
Yeah, the one in Kurdistan. Yeah, and northern Iraq's always been very well for a lot of people. It's been very emotional, for want of a better word. I think you're spending so much time in Mosul on the ground. Um, Difficult situation. And what was going on around Mosul at that time was challenging, for want of a better word. Um, I've spent a bit of time there as well, but the people. How did you find the people there?
Look, your locals are brilliant people, and you feel sorry for them because, you know, they'd been living under the rule of ISIS for 18 months, 2 years, before it was decided that enough was enough, and everybody, all the coalition forces and the Iraqi forces were going to come together and clear it out. But everybody I met, including the Iraqi Special Forces guys who we traveled a lot with, were brilliant. They were brilliant people, friendly. You know, we used to sometimes sit around in a house at night, and you know, those that spoke English would be chatting away to you, and they shared your food with you, and they looked after you. Basically, they were your first line of defense. If anybody came through the door, you know, you'd have to rely on these guys. So, you know, no matter what you thought of them or whatever you didn't think of them, they were your line of defense. And, you know, as I always put over to the crews, make friends with them. You know, you don't have to be their best friends and keep in contact when you leave, but for the period of time that you're there, treat them as one of your own. And we all did, you know, and I still keep in touch with two guys now from Mosul, and you know, well, they live in Baghdad, but they were part of the Iraqi Special Forces that cleared it out, and they were brave. They were very brave guys, you know, working alongside the coalition forces. You know, it was almost like relating to the First and Second World War. You know, they had a job to do, get the job done, and get home.
Yeah, there was the people over there I find are incredible. I still spend quite a bit of time out in Kurdistan. A lot of my friends are there now, but
Yeah.
they went through some very hard times, challenging times. But I found the people hospitable, humble as well. Some of
Yeah.
the greatest acts of kindness I have seen was in Mosul by people who are absolutely nothing. They had lost their homes. Members of the families had been executed by ISIS. We just went in, broke bread and drank chai, and spoke to them. Brilliant people. I can't thank them enough. But you've been there as well, so you know exactly.
I totally agree with you. You know, they'll give you the last bit of food on the plate, and you know, you feel humbled, and you know, no, and they'll force it on you, and that's what they're like. You know, I think a lot of people have the wrong sort of thoughts about Middle Eastern people.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody is a killer. They're family people like we are. Their houses have been destroyed. Their businesses have been taken over. And you feel for them, you know, and it's hard when you leave and some guy like who's been driving you through Sniper Alley and, you know, bombs and mortars and ISIS people around the corner shooting at you. You know, you go back to Erbil and you get cleaned up and you get on a plane and you fly home to your family, whereas these guys are backwards and forwards all the time. And there's no insurance for them if they get shot. There's nothing. You know, while they're working for the media, they're covered, but once you've gone, they're on their own.
Yeah, it's very it's challenging for a lot of the guys who are still over there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think it's an ongoing thing, but there is some good people over there. I think people who are very small-minded think everyone over there is bad and there's attitudes. My advice to that one would be go and spend a bit of time over there. There's good
I
and
totally
bad
agree.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So don't pigeonhole everyone out there in the same box as being the bad guys. They are not. Some of my closest friends are over there in Kurdistan and in Iraq and that. Right, I'll just like to leapfrog forward a little bit there. You have opened up CSS Security and Logistics in California. Can you tell us a little bit about that company, please?
Well, it started towards 2017. I'd been at Sky for 6 years. We'd been through all the Libya campaign and all the other stuff that was going on. And I think I'd got to the stage where I'd had enough of packing a bag, getting on a plane, going to another war zone, conflict zone, back, getting home, shower, packing bag, and coming back again. So I have a very good friend out here who owns a business, and we've been friends for 30 years. I'd been here on an exchange trip in 91, 92 with the US Marine Corps, and I'd stayed in a place in Virginia, and I met him, and he was a lifeguard, and we just hit it off. We got on really well. We partied hard, and we laughed and joked, and we'd remained friends for a long time. And he then said to me, and my wife and I had been coming out here on holiday and staying with him and his wife, and he said, look, why don't you move out here? And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, let's look into it. So we contacted a couple of immigration lawyers, and we spoke to this one guy, and he said, look, he said, there's no way you're going to get a visa to come out here because, one, you're not a brain surgeon, and that refers back to me not learning at school. Secondly, you're not an IT geek who basically wants to work in Silicon Valley. Thirdly, you're not anybody that's going to bring something to the country. So he said, my suggestion is you form your own company and you come in on a business visa. So we were like, okay. He said, go away and think about it and look into it, what you want to do, and then come back and see me. So we then had a couple of days here in California, and we sat and drank some beers and wines, as you do, and we were talking about it. And I then contacted the immigration lawyer and said, so what's the process? And he said, look, the more money you invest in your company, the more chances you've got of getting a visa. So Brian and I sat down, had a conversation, and he said, look, I'll support you and I'll help you out, and I will give your wife a job up in one of my companies. And I said, okay. He said, and then we can work out on something. So we went through a whole rigmarole for about a year, and we invested a lot of money, and that gave us 100% chance of getting the visa. So we got the visa, and the company was formed in 2018, and we moved to California on January the 1st, 2019. And I had a couple of little contracts, and I had contacts with people, and I'd been talking to Sony Pictures in LA, and I was thinking that I could concentrate on Central and South America because of my contacts there. And then we moved here, and then for the first year, I did a few jobs for various people, and then I was working on basically trying to perform something different that nobody else has got out here. I had a meeting with a load of events people, and they said, we're paranoid about active shooters in the US. Very, very paranoid. So having a concealed weapons permit and knowing like-minded people who have a concealed weapons permit, I thought, right, maybe we can start putting together. And I met this guy who owns a big winery and event center, and he said, "This is what I'm looking for." So we were about to sign a contract last year, end of February, beginning of March, so that I would provide plainclothes, undercover, CCW holders to mix in with the people at these concerts. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And as a lot of other companies, I couldn't really do anything. But, referring to one door opens, one door closes, that then kicked off with Sky, who couldn't send anybody out here to work, knowing that I was here. So through CSS Security Logistics LLC, they employed me to do the George Floyd, the Breonna Taylor, all the Black Lives Matter riots. So from not signing a big contract to do event active shooter security, I went straight into working for Sky, doing my old job again, which, behind the scenes, I also run a cowboy bar, which I'm the general manager, it's not challenging. I have great people around me. It's a fantastic bar. It's been open through COVID because we have a huge patio. I get paid through Craig Summers, CSS Security and Logistics, for doing cash handling and transferring of money, and also working for Sky. And then Sky basically called me before Christmas. They were worried about the elections and what was going on and what was my availability. And I said to them, look, why don't you take me on a retainer? So they took me on for a retainer for the elections. And then they sort of approached me at Christmas just gone and said, would you be available to work for us for January, February and March? And I said, yes, I would. So I'm on a retainer and a contract at the moment. I still have CSS Security and Logistics working in the background. I'm hoping that once COVID is clear out here, that I can then go back to talking to the event security people. Look, Anthony, it's a massive, massive change. It's hard to get involved out here with American companies because it's slightly different. But other than that, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying life here. I'm on year 3. We have a 5-year visa. Do we stay? I don't know. Do we leave? That's another question. Both my wife and I love it. We live on a 40-acre ranch. I have 2 CCW licenses, one for Utah, one for California. There's always plenty of security work out here. They love English people. So who knows? Let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to be out there for some time because you've got a skill set and you've got some incredible connections out there, and you love being out there as well.
Yeah.
If people, because obviously your company, CSS Security and Logistics California, if people want to contact you or get hold of you, what is the easiest way?
The easiest way is to either go onto the website, csssecurityandlogistics.com, and there's a contact details on there. You can contact me either via email, or if you want to contact me directly, I'm happy to give my phone number, which is +1 805 540 8530. Look, I'm a sort of very small company. I have a couple of people that work for me. I'm very discreet, and I want to stay that way. There's a lot of bigger companies with big contracts, which, that's fine. I like to be the person that's recommended, and then I'll go along and I'll do the job, whatever is needed. And I work with honesty, integrity, and loyalty.
Exactly. My some of my corporate contacts will be watching this interview who are actually over in America and in California. So if you need any services or advice, contact Craig, and I highly recommend him. He's a veteran, and runs a veteran-owned company as well. On one more question, Craig, before you leave, the COVID and the situation with a lot of the veterans, both in the United States and across the United Kingdom. A lot of vets are going through a hard time at the moment. Would you like to give them a message?
Yeah, look, I think I have a lot of homeless COVID-related veterans around where I live, and what I try and do is, you know, I don't give them the money. I try and I buy food for them and I give the food to them, you know. And I think, look, guys, it's a tough time for all of us. I've actually had COVID, and I was very lucky, and I've had a vaccine shot now as well. And I think, you know, we've all got that mindset. We've just got to fight through it. We've been there. We've done worse things in life, and times are tough, you know. And at the end of that, if you feel that you're not succeeding yourself or talking to your wife or your partner, then look, there's plenty of groups out there to talk to. Don't let it build up. Basically, talk to your friends, talk to your oppos, you know, tell them that you're struggling. You know, there's a lot of people struggling in COVID times. And I think as long as we all stick together, we're all veterans, we've all been there, we've all worn that T-shirt, we've all stood in the pouring rain and said the same old words, if it ain't raining, it's not training. You know, it's hard times, but we've got to stick together. And look, you know, my number's on here. I've given out my number. Anybody in California or close to where I live, if you feel that you're struggling and you just want a phone chat, even the guys in the UK, but please remember, I'm 8 hours behind you, so don't call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, look, guys, come on. I think we can stick together. And my emails are out there. Contact me on my website if you want to talk, anything at all. I'm happy to support any veteran.
Craig, thank you for that. Absolutely sound, solid advice as well from someone who's actually been there. Craig, thank you so much for being on the Patriot Show. If you can stay on the line. Everyone else, thank you for watching the Patriot Show. Please watch the small video clips at the end, which advertise veteran-owned companies. Craig, would you like to say something else?
No, I'd just like to say thank you very much for the opportunity of asking me to come on. And I was very glad to share my career and what I've done since I left the military. And good luck to everybody else out there. And, you know, fight for it. It's there. You'll get it. Nobody's going to hand it to you on a plate. Work hard, play hard.
Exactly. Okay, everybody. Craig, thank you so much again. All my viewers, stay safe. Catch you on the next show. Goodbye, everybody.